Hello and welcome to Starving Artist Courses, your all-in-one online music education resource. My name is Juiette and welcome to your very first bass guitar lesson. Now, bass guitar is one of the coolest, smoothest instruments. I started playing bass guitar back when I was in youth ministry. They were rebuilding their worship team at the time and needed a bass player. So I jumped on the bass, didn't really know what I was doing, just hitting a few notes here and there and just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, switching to the next note, just really basic. Now, years later, I've been in numerous bands playing the bass and had a bunch of opportunities on this instrument, so it's been amazing. So now we want to give you the opportunity to learn bass. Now, the bass guitar is super cool, super fun, and extremely foundational to a band. If you go and listen to any song on the radio right now, the thing that's holding that song together is the bass line and the bass groove. And if it was missing, you definitely notice that the bass is missing. So today I'm going to teach you the basics of the bass guitar. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, the type of bass that I'm using to teach is called an electric bass. This one has a cable that plugs into an amp and is powered by an amp. That's the only way you're able to hear it. There are also acoustic basses called an upright bass or a double bass. Typically, bass guitars have 4 strings. There are some 5-string basses and there are also some 6-string basses, but for the majority of our lessons, we'll be using a 4-string bass, okay? Now, looking at this, there are a lot of different parts, and I'm gonna go ahead and explain them to you, starting from the top and working our way down. Now, up here, this is called the head or the headstock. This here is the neck, and this is the body. So if you ever forget, just think of a person's body. You have the head, the neck, and the body, okay? Now, going back up here to the headstock, you have these things here called tuning pegs. Tuning pegs. These help us to make sure that the strings are in tune. Each one of these strings have a specific frequency or a specific tone that it's supposed to be at in order for everything to flow and sound correct. So we tune these or twist these in a certain direction to make it go up or to make it go down, okay? We'll explain that a little bit later. So those are the tuning pegs. This here is the nut. It holds the strings in place. Then you have your neck, and on top of the neck, this is the fretboard, okay? Down here, you have these things here called pickups. There are different types of pickups. Right now, this bass has 2 pickups, and it helps with the tone of the bass. We'll also explain that a little bit later. And back here, you have the bridge. This holds the strings in. If you notice, it's attached here, and then you pull it all the way in, twist it through, and you keep turning these tuning pegs until the strings are nice and tight to where they're supposed to be. Down here, you have your knobs. These are your volume knobs, and these are your tone knobs here. These volume knobs are associated with these pickups here, okay? So this front one turns up and down this pickup, and this one turns up the bridge pickup. Same thing with these tone knobs. This tone knob here is for the front pickup, and this tone knob here is for the back pickup. Now, as I mentioned before, the bass guitar has 4 strings, and they're indicated by letter names. This top string is called E, this one is A, this one is D, and this one is G. I'll explain what that means in a future video, but today just remember E, A, D, and G, okay? Next, I want to mention how to hold the bass guitar. Now, if you look at this, there's a part that's cut away on this guitar. That's so that this can rest on your leg. So you play bass, you want this to rest right here on your leg, nice and comfortably. Some people keep it straight, some people angle it up. I just kind of let it rest, and wherever my hand comes up, and it's comfortable, where it feels relaxed, that's where I'll hold the bass. Nothing too low like this. This isn't really too comfortable for me. I like it right here. So kind of just in the center, a little angled up. This is a sweet spot, okay? The next thing I want to go over is what do we use to play the bass guitar? Now, I'm sure you've seen people play acoustic guitar, play electric guitar, and they're using a pick. Now, there are bass picks, and they're thicker than the picks we use for acoustic guitars or electric guitars because these strings are thicker than those strings, and we need a thicker pick to be able to cut through and to get the sound that we want. But typically, when we play bass guitar, we're using our fingers. And the fingers that we use are our pointer finger and our middle finger. So this will be finger 1 and finger 2. And the way I like to explain the motion is as if your fingers are running. Okay, you kind of want to have this running motion when you're plucking the strings. So if you bring that down to the string, they're going to run like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now your thumb, notice my thumb was resting right here on the body of the guitar. Some people play the bass with their thumb just floating and kind of just playing like this. That's personally not a preference of mine. I like to either rest my thumb on the body or rest my thumb on the pickup. Mostly I rest it on the pickup as I go up and down the strings. Or as you work your way down the strings, you can rest your thumb on the string that's above it. So if you're on E, you rest your thumb on the pickup. And then as you go down to A, you rest your thumb on E and continue like that. Okay, so now that we've learned all the parts of the bass and how to pluck the bass, we're going to move forward and learn our very first scale, and it's called the chromatic scale. Chromatic just means moving up and down in order. So we're going to be using the fingers on our left hand to move up and down the frets in chromatic order, okay? Now remember the right hand, these fingers are 1 and 2. On the left, same thing, 1, 2, and this is going to be called 3, and this is 4. So with those fingers, we're going to come here and on the first fret, use the first finger. Second fret, use the second finger. Third, use the third finger. Fourth, use the fourth finger. And we're going to start off plucking the E string open like this. And then move up and down. One thing I want to mention before we get too deep into this is that these strings are really thick. So you want to make sure you put enough pressure so there's no buzzing. You want to make sure it sounds nice and clean like this, as opposed to, if your bass sounds like that, that means you're not putting enough pressure. And it's going to take work. It's going to hurt initially, but you're going to get used to it, so don't worry. So you want to make sure you put enough pressure so it's nice and clean. Also, you see these metal lines here between the frets. You want to get close to those, right behind it. That's where you want to put the finger to get the best sound out of it, okay? So, back to doing the chromatic scale. Whenever you hit a string open, we're going to call that 0 because we're not pressing down on any of the frets. This is the first fret, so the note before that, that will be 0, okay? So we want to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Go to A string, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Go to the D string, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then lastly, the G string, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it'll be like this. And that's how you walk the chromatic scale. Now you don't want to be able to just work your way up, you want to be able to bring it all the way back as well. So when you come back, you start with that fourth finger on the fourth fret and go 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and make your way all the way back. Okay, so it's going to be like this. One thing that's very important to mention, with your right hand, I don't want you just plucking with this one finger. I want you alternating the fingers, okay? So as you go, you wanna go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and onward. And that was your very first bass guitar lesson. Great job. So your homework this week, I want you to work on that chromatic scale. Keep everything in mind that I mentioned. Pluck alternating with the fingers on this side. Move up and down. Put the pressure on so you don't hear any buzzing. And make sure to use a metronome. A metronome helps you to keep a steady, consistent pace as you practice. So download a metronome app to your cell phone. I have a link below of a suggestion that you can download, and make sure that you stay nice and consistent. I recommend starting at 60 beats per minute and following each tap. Do, 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 do. And for each one of those taps, that's when I want you to hit a note on the bass. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And make sure you keep alternating those fingers. Very, very important. Now, the last thing I want to mention is practice, practice, practice. I want you to practice every day as opposed to trying to cram in practice on one day of the week. That's not how our brains work. It develops by doing a little bit every day and building that muscle memory, okay? So make sure you dedicate time every single day towards your dream of becoming a musician. And if you find it hard to dedicate that time, we actually have a free gift for you. If you go to starvingartistcourses.com, join our mailing list, we have a PDF guide for you called Finding Your Rhythm, Making Time for Your Dreams. This guide gives you step-by-step tips on how to set aside time no matter how busy your schedule is. So make sure you go and download that. Also, these lessons are going to build on top of each other, so make sure you subscribe, like this video, and hit the bell so that you're notified whenever the next video drops. Thank you so much for tuning in to Starving Artist Courses, and I'll see you next week.